Recording started.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Trinity Collaborative's May Recreation Committee meeting. Got a lot of people that we may not know each other, so we probably ought to do introductions. I'm Pat Frost, and I'm part of the facilitation team. We'll go around the room here in the live room, and then hit the boxes on the screen.
Keith Kenny, general public, we were done.
Carol Fall, North Trinity Lake and Collaborative.
Jim Dees, Recreation and Bad River Ranger District, Six Rivers National Forest.
Jack Leinhardt, Watershed Center, Recreation Program Coordinator.
I'm Susan Molyneux with Trinity Trail Alliance and General Public Representative.
I'm Ross Molyneux, Collaborative, Trinity Trail Alliance. Hi.
Kelly Sheen, I'm the district manager for the Trinity County Resource Conservation District and part of the collaborative facilitation team. And we'll go to Jose.
Good morning, everybody. Jose Hernandez. I'm the Deputy District Ranger on detail here on the Shasta Lake NRA.
Thanks, Jose. And Tara.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tara Jones. I am the district ranger for the Trinity River Management Unit and the South Fork Management Unit. Want to apologize for not being able to be there in person today. My son is a senior and has a playoff baseball game today, and you couldn't drag me away from not missing that. So I'm thankful for the ability to be on Zoom and still meet with everybody.
Well, thanks for joining us. We fully understand. Tony, go ahead.
Tony Pascal. I'm with Caltrans. I'm the District 2 encroachment permit engineer.
All right, and Tom?
Tom March, landscape specialist for District 2.
Great. And Sally?
Kelly Cousins, rec officer for the Trinity Side Forest.
For today and today only, right?
No, I have 5 days left, Pat, and I have a lot to get done.
Okay.
Thanks, Sally, for joining us. And Joe?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Joe Stubendick, Recreation Officer for the Shasta Lake Ranger District. Good to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us either live or by Zoom. So quick, make sure there aren't changes to the agenda that need to be made. Is there anything that I left out or did I put things on there that we don't need to talk about? For BLM, we'll be able to kind of skip the reporting, but we have an email that Laura Broadhead sent out that I think Kelly forwarded to everybody yesterday. It kind
Yes.
of goes over, but if we have questions from that, we should probably get those recorded so we can pass them on to Laura.
Yeah.
But really appreciate Tony and Tom joining us from Caltrans. And we really want to dedicate as much time as we need to talk about the multi-use trail, and in particular, the one segment near Stony Creek. What I thought, and all of you on Zoom don't have the benefit of a couple of handouts that Ross provided. So maybe Ross can give us an overview just so that everybody who's fairly new to the collaborative kind of has the gist of what we're talking about in the big sense, then focus in on the more immediate mile of trail, and then back up to the big scale again as need be. And Kelly can key up a Google map or aerial that will help us kind of visualize what we're talking about. So kind of take it away, Ross.
All right. So I'm going to give an overview of the trail, since we have a lot of new faces. If you have an old face, I feel your pain. So the trail starts and ends at the confluence of Trinity Dam Boulevard, Rush Creek Road, and the turnoff to the dams, to the hatchery. So we'll go right up here from that would be like the south end of Lewiston Lake. And then it goes along and like there's about 13 miles of existing trail along Lewiston, and then sometimes the lake pinches off right to the road, so you jump back on the county road.
On Trinity Dam Boulevard.
On Trinity Dam Boulevard. And it goes past all the campgrounds and then back onto the road all the way up to, that's Trinity Dam Boulevard, all the way up past the Vista Point where the dam is, all the way back up to Buckeye R, where it jumps onto, I think that's Haylock Ridge Road or something, and it takes you down and it finds an existing trail through the woods that takes you to Tannery. And it takes you back down Tannery Campground. And then when you leave Tannery Campground on the road, you hit Highway 3. And then, and you travel along Highway 3, and it's not a real point of concern because you have a big wide shoulder there and a long stretches of visibility, so that nobody's coming around the corner and seeing a biker or a hiker in their way. And so it crosses Stewart's Fork Bridge, and then just past, there's a slight uphill just past the bridge. There's a old road turnoff that's been utilized as a parking lot now, and that's where the trail begins. Then it goes through, I should say it goes through every around or through every campground on that side of the lake. It's in NRA property, the property they govern, which is 100 feet from the high water mark of the lake. So it crosses no private property, no SPI even, no nothing. So it's all of that 100 feet. So you go back in, and there it goes through various campgrounds, then it hits Stony Creek area where it hits the road. We'll talk about that in a minute though. And then it goes back down and it continues on around through beside the campgrounds. It hits, as it goes along this west side of the lake, it skirts every campground, every concessionaire, every place they can buy food or camp or do anything. These bike riders, these campers, utilize about 4,000 calories a day, so they eat their way through an area like locusts. And so, so they follow around and they go around the loop until it dumps you off into Trinity Center. And then there's various stores and restaurants, and then it goes back on Trinity Center, gets back on the highway till it crosses, is that Coffee Creek or something? Swift Creek, and then it cuts back on East Side Road, and it remains on East Side Road all the way to the top, and it just stays on the road. It affords wonderful views. You can look back over your shoulder in the north direction. You can see Mount Shasta. You can look to the east and to southeast and see. We have views of Shasta Valley and Whiskeytown Lake. Or you can look to the west and see Trinity Elks, and over the Trinity Elks to the Marble Mountains. So it's pretty nice. It drops down to in a few miles, in 7 miles or something. It drops down a couple thousand feet elevation. It crosses the dam and takes you back to Ackerman Campground, where they have services. They have toilets, water, and everything. Along the east side. Once you leave the lake and you go up there, there's no water accessible except for there's Clear Creek Campground. It's on the Shasta County side that has water and everything. So the bike packers, have to carry enough water to get them to Ackerman. There's an alternate way to go down this. You just go down Deadwood Road, and then you eventually come out at the point of beginning, at the bottom of the lake. Bottom of Lewiston Lake. And so what's this, what does this do with it for? Who's gonna use this? Well, a few people, the most macho are gonna do the whole thing. Maybe they'll get a patch or something at the Chamber of Commerce if they do the whole lake, but most of the people are gonna be in between the campgrounds and riding. The people that are utilizing the lakes, the parks that are built now are just families bringing their kids' bikes and everything, and the trails are pretty benign. You could let your kids ride on them alone, and they're utilizing it. So the part that Caltrans needs to address are right there at Stony Creek, you know, right by the group camp and everything is we need to go across the armored slope there, and we don't want to go on the highway, and we would like a nice path across the armored slope. We don't want to go down to the bottom. We don't want to go up to be on the road. We want to just go on across that slope as fast as we can. And there are several points that it's not a consistent slope. It's there's trees growing on in some portions. A culvert, we want to go over the top of that culvert and not deal with it at all. We want to cross this area, this rocky area, the easiest way possible, with a nice wide trail, so people come along and if they see a dangerous trail, they'll say, we'll just take the road. We would like to keep them off the road. And so we would like just a trail just go straight across there at a certain elevation and across the top of the culvert and back to the other side. The other worrisome place is Mule Creek Bridge. The trail comes out and it can cross Mule Creek. The Forest Service suggested a wet crossing. Well, you go on sometimes a year, there's a horrendous amount of water coming down Mule Creek. And so the people would probably opt to cross the bridge. That's a real dangerous point because the cars are coming fast and it's windy. And so you can't see people a long way off, you know. So, and then when you cross the bridge, there's an uphill on the other side, which means bicycles go slow in the uphills. And then when we leave Trinity Center, we just get back on the road because the road is pretty good there, and you got a lot of visibility. You can see people on the road or next to the road, although from a long way off. So we're not worried about that. We're worried about the slope on the armored slope on by Stony Point and the Mule Creek Bridge.
Okay.
So what have I forgotten?
Well, I guess for the new people, maybe a little of the history of how this project came to the collaborative might be helpful too.
Okay, well, I pitched this idea to Secretary of Vilsack, Secretary of the Interior. He thought it was a great idea. He had been a governor of Iowa, and they have the rag ball there. There's a bike ride across Iowa that pays for all the nonprofits in Iowa for a year. Every year they have this thing. And so he kind of paved the way. He said there was a change in personnel here that made it easier for the collaborative to deal with them. And
That was in 2013.
12.
yeah, I know, I didn't want to mention that right off, but it was in 2013, so it's only 9 years. And he said at the time that it's a good idea if you don't hear from me in 2 weeks. He called me in Washington, and within about 2 weeks, he did send a contingent out here. There was the head of the Forest Service from Washington, D.C., and some economic people and some others came out and they said, oh yeah, we heard about your trail. I understood they're going to put their fastest people on it and just push this right through, because nobody has told me it's a bad idea. I haven't heard one person say it's a bad idea. And it's an economic boom, you know. Did any of you see the jerk? This is a profit making scheme. You know, we're sending we're sending these hungry people down through every campground, by every restaurant on the west side of the lake. There is nothing on the east side of the lake. Once they get up to Coffee Creek at the north end, they can go up there and have a pizza, trailhead pizza or something, but then you really leave civilization and you're just in it for whatever demands your personality makes you do the whole lake. But there's going to be a lot of action from campground to campground on the west side, and that's where the money is.
Tom has his hand up. I'm sorry.
Hey, Kelly, or Tony, do you know the exact post miles? Stony Creek is, I just need reference when we're talking.
I think it's around 44 and a half. I have a right-of-way map for it.
Yep.
It's around 44 and a half.
There's that. And can you zoom, Kelly, can you zoom to Mule Creek Bridge where you plan to cross there too?
I don't remember where Mule Creek is.
Mule Creek just right there.
This?
Yeah, that's it there.
Okay, just hold that for a second. And I'm looking at my second viewer.
Oh, I see.
Pull back just a little bit.
I just want to add, so with the regional transportation meetings that are going on right now, don't know if it's gonna make any difference, but the fire department has asked for a realignment of the Mule Creek Bridge, because that's a big problem with our ambulance and our fire engine, that downslope and then upslope and around the hairpin turn. So we're gonna be pitching for some sort of realignment. They're either widening the bridge or actually moving it downstream a little. Because there's been fatalities there, so yeah. I don't know if that's gonna be a difference for the trail, long term.
Kelly, can you put your cursor on the Mule Creek Bridge? Right there? Okay, thank you. Okay, I got it. Thanks again.
Yep.
If they're gonna move the road, then the existing road corridor could become the trail.
Right.
Or maybe as part of the project, they put some trail in.
The other thing I wanted to point out for Caltrans, just, because I'm also with the fire department. So Stony Point, right now, people come out of Trinity Alps Resort, and they go from Trinity Alps Resort, which is at Stewart's Fork Bridge, across Stony Point to get onto the Lakeside Trail. So it's been a concern that, right now we have people coming up the highway from Stewart's Fork to Stony Point, and that causeway is really narrow. I mean, there's been accidents there too. And so from a public safety point, it would really help to have those cyclists that are currently using the road have an alternate pathway to get onto the Lakeshore Trail.
And just another kind of historical point, just to kind of emphasize it, we've been working on this for a while. So in 2013 or 2014, the Resource Conservation District applied for funding from the Trinity County Resource Advisory Committee to do some of the specialist work for the pre-NEPA for the mile of trail associated with Stony Point. When that work was finished by probably 2015, and then unbeknownst to us, we thought that there was a hang-up at the Forest Service, on finalizing some of that specialist work. But yeah, it was, archaeology and soils and wildlife and I can't remember, botany, I think were the ones, hydrology were all, so those reports are all done. So there's kind of some pretty good, might need at this point some refreshing, but there is a body of information already that has been analyzed. And I guess then the question becomes kind of a Caltrans one. It's it's in your right of way, and so Tony, Tom, your thoughts on the Stony Point in particular, but also the bigger vision of a cycling trail all the way around the lake as it relates to Highway 3.
Yeah, this is Tony Pascal. In general, I like the idea. We encourage trails. I like to bike and I like to hike and all that good stuff. So I do think at Stony Point, I met with someone in 2015 years ago at this site and walked it with somebody.
That was me.
I said,
That was
what's
me.
that?
That was me.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm somewhat familiar with the spot. I sent Kelly kind of our guidance. I did look into trails, and so it's going to be multi-use for pedestrians. It does create some challenges for us. The main challenge is that it has to be ADA compliant, so it can't be like a single track. I think it's got to have a cross slope of no more than 2%. It can't have a grade, a profile grade of more than 5%. You can go up to 8.33, and then you got to have a landing every 30 feet. So on our end, what needs to be done is kind of an engineer needs to get involved and see if it actually is going to work or not, if it's going to fit. And also a Caltrans concern would also be, that if we have to cut into our slopes, making sure we don't damage our slopes and make sure the slopes are stable. And then we did do a project similar to this with the city of Reading, and it took a lot of effort to stabilize the slopes. So when we talk about the slope that is armored, it's probably armored for a reason. We do have history of slide problems. So those would be concerns for us. And then also a concern for us would be is who's going to maintain the trail, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, with make sure that stuff gets addressed as well. I did look into, I looked into trails on, and if you make it a bicycle only trail, it does kind of reduce some of the requirements, but it sounds like you want a multi-use trail. So I don't know if that's helped. So what you're looking for, but that's what my research kind of figured out.
So the history of the calling it a multi-use trail was actually the suggestion of the Forest Service back in 2014 or so. And I don't really remember the why, but maybe Ross does, but that was Leslie Yen's suggestion as the ranger.
Yeah, it's mostly a bicycle trail. I'm a bike rider, and it was mostly for a bicycle trail. People, they won't be riding horses on it because there's so many more places that are nicer to ride horses. The wilderness is right there, and yeah, but I think we're looking for the same thing. Is we can ride on the highway and just bypass that area. And we're experts on armored slopes, and we're going to add rock to it to make the trail across. We're not taking any rock away. And there, as you look down the slope, it's not real consistent. There's shoulders and benches along that slope, and we'll partially utilize that. And we're going to go pretty much straight across the slope. We're not going to gain elevation or lose elevation. We're not going to the bottom. That's a rocky, dangerous area. We don't want to make it more. We're going to make a nice trail across it that doesn't go up or down, doesn't gain or lose elevation. And we want to keep them from riding on the road because they're not stupid. If they see a dangerous path across the rock, or they can take the road and arrive at the same place, they're going to take the road. So I think we're working towards the same end. We wanted to keep them off the road and keep them on a nice slope.
So go ahead, Kelly.
One of the things that we noted on the field trip, and you can kind of see how in this aerial photography that there's, some trees sort of down, and there's like a bench. There's already sort of a bench down below the slope, like it kind of drops off, and then there's this already existing bench that kind of goes across the armored part down below. So the thought when we were there would be to just utilize that natural sort of existing flat spot to put the trail in, was one of the thoughts as we were actually looking at it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just wanted to ask Tony also, Tony and I had a conversation a little bit about this. It was brought up that, there's something very much like this on you know, essentially like a Caltrans, you know, fill area just above Oak Bottom, the Oak Bottom turnoff on Whiskey Town. And Tony, could you explain to this group why that isn't necessarily applicable for that particular existing trail?
Yeah, a couple things. I'm not sure most of that trail is actually in Caltrans right away. You know, that, a lot of that right away, maybe possibly that trail possibly pre-existed us getting in there. And I don't think that trail has never been permitted. So it's not a permitted trail as far as with Caltrans. And then, and when you look at our requirements now, a lot of those requirements that we have now probably didn't exist when that trail was built. Like the ADA compliant stuff, that stuff probably didn't exist when that trail was built. At least it was in the Caltrans right away. And it's just interesting when anything that requires pedestrian use kicks in all the ADA compliant stuff. And I was looking at it, trying to find a ways around it, and I don't see any ways around it. And maybe that's just the way it is.
So the rest of this trail around the lake is basically single track. It's not ADA compliant. So it seems like to be consistent with the rest of the trail, would be the main goal. And so that is pretty much a bike only, not an ADA compliant trail.
Yeah, why would it need to be ADA compliant, Tony? Just because of the multi-use?
Yeah, I'm just telling you the Caltrans requirement. You feel free to look at it myself. And I want to tell you, I'm not an expert when it comes to building trails, but we have certain requirements of what trails are allowed in the state right of way. And if it triggers pedestrian use, what I'm seeing is it says if pedestrian requires ADA compliant. We went through this with the city of Reading. They put a dirt trail up the Palisades hill here that kind of goes off the Dana downtown trail, and they had to build that ADA compliant. It was 5 feet wide with 2-foot shoulders. They had to build landings. They didn't have to be paved, but it had to be an improved surface. So I think they used DG or aggregate base. It just where our standards are for any path that has pedestrians within the state right of way, it triggers the ADA compliance. That's what I'm reading. That's what it says. I checked with the design to confirm how I interpreted the rules, and they concurred with me.
So it sounds like just the Forest Service definition of multi-use is just different than yours. So even though the Forest Service is calling it multi-use, as far as the actual planned use, it's not multi-use on the Caltrans part.
Makes sense. I mean, I can see the ranger saying, well, hey, what if somebody wants to hike around the lake? Why can't they use the trail? But I can also say, well, Caltrans is used to doing different kinds of projects. In their mind, as soon as you say somebody's going to be walking, then we've got to make it where everybody can walk. And it doesn't try to make ADA compliant one little bit of the trail when the rest of it isn't. That doesn't seem like a good use of taxpayer money.
So I think if I'm not mistaken, that we can just use the road. We can just use the road and not worry about it. But I don't think that's the best idea for me, and that's not the best idea for you. We would like to build a trail alongside and keep them off the road.
And I did look at some of the guidance. If you do designate it as a bicycle only trail, it drops the width of the trail down to 3 feet versus 5 feet. So, and I didn't get all the details into it, but it does reduce some of the requirements. But anyways, like I said, the engineer's gonna have to look at it and figure out, what kind of trail you want and whether or not it's gonna fit or not.
So when you say engineer, meaning your guys as engineers, because we actually, I got a message from Josh Smith that said that he has a friend that helps with trail building,
A PE professional engineer.
he's a professional engineer that he would be willing to probably do the design and sign off on it for us.
Yeah, so at least in encroachment permits, we don't engineer projects for Caltrans. So when you apply for a permit, you have to get your own engineer. We don't do the engineering work for you out of encroachment permits. Obviously, we do have engineers for Caltrans. If you partner with Caltrans and develop some sort of joint project through our local assistance and something, and depending on who ends up doing the project, that would be a path as well. But right now, this is being proposed, as is my understanding, as a permitting project.
So Josh Smith is probably talking about Don Lindsay, who's an engineer geologist for the California Geologic Survey. He specializes in road construction in highly erosive areas, especially, he's published all kinds of papers, but he would be probably the perfect person to talk to about this.
So I have a kind of procedural question, Tony, and what makes me think of it is with Rotary, I'm still working on the encroachment permit for the trash barrels that I think got started over a year ago. And the issue there was who's gonna be the applicant. So we need to figure out who the applicant's gonna be if we were to move forward with this and apply for an encroachment permit. And the Trinity Trail Alliance is a 501c3 nonprofit, that focuses and specializes in trail building and maintenance and outreach and that sort of thing. So that would be a possibility, but
Did you get the Forest Service?
would it be the Forest Service? Was that who you would want? Because you're gonna want somebody to say, we're gonna maintain this also.
Correct. Yeah, similar to the trash can type issue, we would like, the county or another agency that has the means and method to maintain it for years out. Yeah, that would be the preferred and the way we'd like it done. And we may have to actually enter into a formal type maintenance agreement with an agency as well for something like this. We've done that in the past with the city of Reading. But the problem is until we get more details on how long it is and where it's going to go, it's kind of hard to figure those out.
Yeah. And, okay.
Ross, what about these two areas of concern with Caltrans using those as a bicycle bypass to get them off the state highway onto, especially because these two turns we know are problem areas.
Yeah.
That reclassify that short section as a bicycle bypass.
Yeah, bicycle only. Yeah, that would work. A lot of places we're jumping on the Caltrans road anyway to cross Swift Creek, and it's the only viable. And plus, they've all done a lot of work on the roads on the north end of the lake.
Well, Swift Creek's gonna have a bike lane on it,
Yeah.
that bridge.
Yeah.
Nice. Right, and that's being. worked
So
on right now.
so in this place, we can just, route the people along the road, and then they can drop back off, and we can
Yeah,
do this extensive paper. I don't know how long I can do this paperwork for,
well, I mean,
Look at me,
You get a little more.
this is 9 years so far, I thought I'd just have an idea, great idea, and then the Forest Service would run with it, Bill said, it's like, oh, we'll put our best people on this, this is 9 years later.
well,
I'm 78,
We get you out and bike you around the lake a couple of
Yeah.
times.
I've already done that.
so I just wanna say, I really wanna emphasize from a public safety point of view that, getting the current cyclists off the road, because it is just this causeway on a curve, would be awesome if we can figure out how to do that. And I'm someone who drives that road pretty regularly, so, I don't know, but Ross sees them as much as I do, but I see the cyclists all summer, coming up that road to get onto the Lakeside Trail, and it's not good.
A lot of road bikers just use the road. They're not interested in the trail. They just use the road going out.
Right. They don't have the tires for good.
They don't have
Yeah,
a
I would say
tire.
it depends what bike you got.
So Tony, any other advice at this point for us, or Tom, anything you want to add?
I had a quick question for Caltrans.
Sure, go ahead, Sally.
Yeah, so this is being promoted as a, family bike packing trail / road riding. How does Caltrans feel about having, a 6-year-old kid riding on a highway where people are going 55 miles an hour, right? I'm one of those cyclists that ride the highway all the time. Often there's no shoulder whatsoever. So you are riding on the highway. It's 55 miles an hour. I would have concerns about having my 6-year-old riding in front of me because there's no flashing, there's no like, hey, there's bikers ahead, where you push the button, so it's making alerts along the highway. Incorporating that sort of safety features, if we are expected to ride on the highway, are going to be really important for Caltrans to help us install. Just thoughts from a mom that cycles a lot.
Yeah, so this is Tony. I cycle a lot with my kids too, and I agree with your concerns. That's, why we're here and we're trying to figure out a solution to try to get this path, in a better spot if we can make it work. Those concerns are legitimate and I have the same concerns. So I'm not sure.
If we're not able to get it off the highway, is there any other alternative safety measures that we could install to alert people driving on the highway that they need to slow down, that,
If we
flashing
had a
lights
guard,
ahead where you push the button? So just alternate safety.
if we had a guardrail around that area and the bicyclist rode outside the guardrail, that would be more than helpful. And that would, there's no building involved there. They're just putting up the guardrail and there's
There's not enough room on that causeway.
There's not enough shoulder.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the shoulder that's right up in here was like maybe like this and dropping away from the pavement pretty steadily before the slope.
That's enough. All we need is this. All we need is that. That's all the trail's gonna be. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any possibility about moving it away from the roadway? I mean, a fire trail of some type, further on the west side, on the other side of the swimming hole?
And then you'd have to cross the
Then we'd
highway
have to
twice.
Cross the highway
Oh.
twice.
Sure.
And the lake's in the way to go anyplace else.
Yeah. When you get into waterways, that environmental compliance gets complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to figure out how to get across the creek too.
Mhm.
Creek.
And sometimes the lake, when the lake is actually full.
Mm-hmm.
So any other guidance at this point, Tom?
What's that?
And Tom or Tony, any further guidance?
The only thought I would have is figure out what type of path do you want, if you want multi-use or not, and then start figuring out what the requirements are. I sent you that stuff, Kelly, and then you're probably gonna have to, if you move forward, you're gonna have to do some surveying and figure out the grades and make sure the trail's gonna fit as far as the grades go.
Gotcha.
And then also, I think this right of way through here, it's an easement. I think the right of way is actually owned by the National Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is as well. So yeah, I think you have to get, obviously, you're gonna have to get a permit with them as well. And then on our end, one of the things we have when we deal with the National Forest, they're a federal government, so they do NEPA. But then we also have a problem because Caltrans still needs CEQA to be done. So that's another environmental piece that has to be put together as well.
Yeah, that's what I was describing earlier. So I think all the field work was done for that. All the different specialties from wildlife to archaeology and soils and hydrology and, owl issues, all that has been, we already have those, the Forest Service has those reports. So that should be a starting point for both NEPA and CEQA.
Okay, and I would just let you know that our geotechnical engineers, sometimes can be sensitive if we have to cut into one of our slopes. So hopefully it won't be an issue, but obviously they'll have to review it and look at it. So when you have an engineer involved, make sure they kind of look at that and address those type of issues.
We have LiDAR for this area too, actually. So, I mean, if we were able to get, somebody like the engineer that Josh had recommended to have a look at that may be the place to start.
Yeah.
And we'd be able to see kind of exactly like, not exactly, but like to some extent, there would be, how workable the bench is,
And so Tony, would you be our point of contact as we start to move forward with this? Or is there somebody else?
No, I think I would be your best point of contact at this point because it's going to end up as an encroachment permit. And then going back to environmental, just to make sure we understand that, is what I'm saying is the National Forest won't typically do a CEQA document. And so when you supply the permit, you just have a NEPA document, that potentially is a problem for getting you a permit. So it's something to think about.
So the Resource Conservation District as a special district can do CEQA.
CEQA lead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good.
Okay, anybody, anything else on this? Ross?
Kelly, who have you worked with in our environmental, Emiliano?
I mean, she sort of has been dealing in-house. She's the one that sort of usually is the go-to person, but I mean, more as a lead, and then we, depending on what it is that we would need, then if we have to do more, studies or surveys or whatever, then we usually farm a lot of that stuff out.
Sure. But when it comes to Caltrans communicating, what I'm just getting at is our encroachment environmental encroachment supervisor for that. He's going to be leaving, and just to have you contact. Well, we'll get in touch with that person, and that way you're doing the right steps, and not more, not less, for
Okay.
Caltrans requirements.
Okay,
Okay, great.
that'd be awesome.
Ross, you had,
So to expedite this thing, why don't we just stop the trail, and then it goes onto the road, just like it crosses the Stewart's Fork Bridge, it just started again after the trail afterwards, and then we don't have to wait a lifetime. And plus, when the trail, both ends of the trail are already in, there'll be more of an incentive for Caltrans to go along with us.
so you're saying go ahead and do on the NEPA for the portion from the pullout up to Stony Creek.
Yeah.
I think that's up to the Forest Service.
Yeah, and so far we've been told several times that they didn't want to do that they wanted to do the whole.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think
We can talk about it.
then we need to talk to somebody up higher. We need to talk to Bill Sack, is back in office. I'll go back to him. I'll stand at his door.
He's actually in the Forest Service.
Right,
office now,
the Forest
right?
Service now, yeah.
Okay, so Jose, will you be our point of contact with NRA? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm your point of contact for NRA.
Okay,
How long are you still with us, Jose?
I will be here through mid-June. So for the long haul, it'll be probably it'll be Sarah acreage for the long haul.
okay.
And then
Okay. Go ahead, Jose.
yeah, so it's my turn, right? A few updates. So let's see here. What do we got today? So a couple of updates. I didn't want to continue on with
Or you could go ahead, just we'll make sure we close the loop on the loop trail. So Kelly, you got anything else on the trail?
No, that's
So
it.
one thing I was gonna suggest is, Ross, Susan, if you could send these to Kelly, he can get them to, Tony and Tom and
And
those that are on Zoom.
Preferably the electronic versions.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank
So
you.
anybody, you have a little bit more?
I actually have a little bit to add on there. The watershed is actually applying we have submitted a proposal to the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, and this is a planning grant targeted directly at the Upper Trinity River watershed. This is specifically a recreation grant and tourism focused. Among these outcomes are going to be included NEQA and CEQA compliance, GIS mapping and modeling, field data, project design, prioritization, and really just support of recreational tourism. So this planning grant we've applied for just shy of $250,000. This trail being one of our priorities.
That's great.
If we receive this funding, we'll be very able to provide some of the logistical assistance needed for this.
When do you think you hear?
We are able, if we are going through the next section of the application process, we'll be able to apply for that at the end of May, beginning of June.
Okay.
Our model here is like the trail around Lake Tahoe, so that's what we want is to We want the Lake Tahoe Trail around Trinity Way.
Okay.
Yeah, so couple of thoughts, if I may, a couple of thoughts on the trail here, just to kind of give a little Forest Service input here. You know, there's a couple of ways, you know, that we could do this, and you know, looking at and listening to Tony. Thanks, Tony, for joining and providing all that information. So the Forest Service will probably look to have this more of a trail under a special uses permit, where you know, this group would take on the role of building and maintaining the trail. And then I believe the Forest Service will build some sort of MOU or non-funded cost share agreement to go into to collaborate on this into the future. So just one thing to kind of think about.
Okay, so
Yeah.
would that be a special use permit, or would it be a volunteer agreement, or are they kind of blended together?
Yeah, well, the volunteer agreement would, you know, get you in to do work on public lands. The non-funded cost share agreement, you know, would, or special use permit, I'm sorry, special use permit would allow you to build a trail and maintain the trail into the future. And then so because of the maintenance and, you know, the monitoring and all that, you know, the Forest Service is leaning more and more towards, you know, a collaborative effort of somebody taking on that maintenance. Of course, we would always, you know, look for volunteers as well and work with other external parties to bring in funding and volunteers to overall have a larger collaborative to maintain these efforts.
Yeah. Okay, so if you could do a little searching around in the Forest Service, if you have any examples of something like this, like the scale and scope, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, and so one of the examples that I have is actually back on a Stanislaus, where we have a special use permit with a resort. And so they propose to build trails on public lands, and it leads right to their resort. And so that's an example there. They take, you know, full responsibility for the maintenance, et cetera, of that trail.
Okay, so yeah, if you could send that to us, that would be great, some document that we could read.
So
Go ahead.
what Carol was just pointing out, like, so as far as, so obviously there's the issue with the, you know, the right of way and the encroachment for Stony Creek. But as far as Mule Creek is concerned, the high water mark of the lake clearly is below that grade. And in my mind, you know, the thing to do here, if there's an existing trail that kind of already comes up to Mule Creek at this point, maybe what we should do is avoid, you know, getting onto the highway at all, and think about like finding funding to put in a bridge over Mule Creek for the bike trail.
Yeah.
Hey, Jose, I have a quick question for you. So we're going to be doing a special use permit to connect trail from our recreation facilities to our system trail. And
Well,
that's how this is going to proceed. I'm just curious because we're connecting our recreation facilities to other recreation facilities and expecting someone else to do a permit.
Yeah, Sally, thanks for that. So that is exactly how it works on the Stanislaus for any new trail. And this is only a mechanism and something to bring up to see who's gonna, you know, kind of, you know, get that local community buy-in into the maintenance, long-term maintenance of the project. It does not mean that that's the mechanism that we'll go into, but it is one mechanism that, you know, the Forest Service is doing.
Okay, so I misunderstood because I thought you said that that's how we're proceeding. And that's completely new to me, at least on this project. So if another decision was made and I was out of the loop, that's no problem. But we'd never talked about a special use permit.
Yeah, so I know no decision has been made. We're talking about, another mechanism that's out there to partner up and, partner with, the local community and the partnerships that are out there.
Okay. Anything else? If not, again, Tony, Tom, thanks a lot for joining us. You can stick on if you want, but we're gonna be talking about other kinds of things now, not so much the trail around the lake or Highway 3.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. Bye, everybody.
So,
Thanks, Tony.
so now we're up to.
Thanks, Tom.
The rest of the.
Thank you.
Okay, rest of the agenda, starting with line officers reports, which I guess will be Tara and Jose, and I have to apologize, I'm gonna leave. I gotta drive to Woodland to help take care of my mom. So.
Okay.
It's important. Yeah. And everybody, have a good rest of your meeting. Thanks a lot, guys. Hey, thank you. Thank you for the help. See you back here. That's it.
Yeah, safe travels.
When we were out there, it walked at Mike McFadden. Said we just do a wet crossing across Mill Creek. I don't know what a wet crossing would look like. I don't know.
Okay.
Digital next step.
I think we should go ahead and move forward. Jose, do you want to go ahead? You were all primed and ready to give us a report out. So you want to go ahead and do that for us? Start us off?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that. So, just a few updates that we have, lots going on, especially in the hiring world. So I just want to provide an update. We have, let me grab my notes here just to make sure that I provide a full report. We are expecting a fiscal GS 11 to report. There's been an offer and acceptance, and they'll be reporting June 6th. So that'll help the overall special uses program. And so then the gal is coming from Florida. So she's relocating out here to California. We have offered also a job, a tentative offer for an admin / front desk position. And that one has been a tentative offer. It's been accepted, and we're looking to make a formal offer in the next few days. So we expect that individual to hopefully onboard by the end of June. So that'll give us additional front desk coverage as well as administrative support. The Forest held a veterans hiring event out of the Reading office. And as for recreation, it looks like we may be getting up to 3 temporary employees out of that. I believe 2 are intended for the recreation shop, and 1 is intended for to fill in the front desk as well here at the NRA office. So that was a good outcome there. We are looking to fill behind Paulette, and that job should be that posting should be up on USA Jobs in the next week or 2. So that's going to be a GS 911. That position will overall administer the special uses at the marina for the marinas. So that's just around the corner. Looking forward to that. What else do we have going on in the hiring world? So collective hiring, those jobs closed up about a week ago. No, maybe a couple of weeks ago. We have a total of 7 positions. A little bit about that on that is nationally, there was about 1,500 positions in the recreation special uses world. There was approximately 5,000 applications submitted. And so we're hoping to, here on the Forest, to fill the positions that we can. Get a lot of applicants, they apply all over the United States. Hopefully we get some good candidates coming in. What else do I have here? So I'll touch on the Trinity Camps. Well, are we gonna talk about Trinity Camps a little bit later?
We have a line item for that. We need to reschedule the field trip that we had planned.
Yeah.
I had been waiting for some dates from Sarah, but I hadn't received any recently.
Yeah, so Sarah's on leave. She, you know, I think most of you know, she's on vacation, spending some time with family. After this whole COVID, you know, thing kind of kept her from visiting for a couple of years. So she's out spending time with the family, you know, introducing her new baby. So she is going to be back on Monday, and she will provide dates next week.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and just to show a little bit more on Trinity Camps, since there's not, you know, we could probably knock that out right now, is we are planning a field visit, so we'll get some dates on there, and the specialists are continuing to work on their mapping and on their reviews for the NEPA on the environmental review side. And then, of course, Carol has been making contact with Todd this week, and they're communicating. So we'll have more in the near future. Excellent. I think that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks for connecting me with Todd. So we're having some good conversations about issues, you know, how to avoid problems in the future. So thank you.
And Carol,
Yeah,
you
you know,
had
Todd is a great guy. He's very passionate about all these projects. So, you know, he's coming up with a really good plan out there, and he'll take your input and make contact with those individuals.
you had a question about one of the hirings that he was talking about. Was it the admin position?
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering, you know, so when you say at the front desk, you're talking over in Mount Shasta, you're not talking to anybody on Trinity side, right?
That's correct. Oh, yeah, I'll let Tara and Sally kind of update you on the Trinity side. And this is all for the Shasta Lake NRA office here.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's any other questions. Tara, do you have anything to report out for staff resources and other updates not on this agenda that would relate to this this group?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna lead off by letting Sally take the lead on some of our successes and challenges in temp hiring, filling out our rec staff. And then whatever she doesn't cover in the big picture stuff, I'll pick up after that. Thanks, Sally.
Okay, so as Jose said, we had the rec hiring event close. That has been delayed, unfortunately. There's just an incredible amount of applicants, which I'm hoping will lead us to having filled positions. We were successful in hiring some phase 4 temps to come and help with developed rec. Unfortunately, they will not be coming on till mid-June, but they will be coming. And then one of our rehires has been delayed in the HR process. So right now we have 4 temps working, 3 temps working in developed rec, which is 3 more than we had, I think, last time we talked. So we're going to be able to open up some more locations, we hope, for Memorial Weekend. Places like Ripstein, we're going to be able to have open. We'll be able to service the 3 toilets at the Wilderness Trailheads, which is a big deal for us because it's most likely going to be very busy. Have not been able to fill behind Frank Boxenbaum, our lake rec tech. So, you know, tentatively with the lake being so low, we're thinking of not putting the floating toilets out because we just don't have staff to put someone on the boat, you know, 3 days a week. The position is filled with a detailer, but that detailer has absolutely no boating experience. So anyway, that's where we're at with that. I have accepted a new job with the regional office. I'll be the infrastructure zone project lead for the North State. So I'll still be working with the Shasta Trinity and the other northern forests, coordinating the infrastructure disaster supplemental and GAOA projects happening up here. So that's pretty exciting. It starts May 22nd. And Katie Bartzokis, our packer, is going to be returning from a detail to Montana, I believe, next week. Mike is returning from his detail next week. I think that's the major recreation updates. If you want to go into the bigger picture stuff, Tara.
Sure. Just so everyone knows, I have scheduled an appointment with a therapist for myself since I'm losing Sally. I'm not slow. I know what that means. Right? I am thrilled that Sally will be taking, within the agency, we want our best people to have the biggest sphere of influence. And I think Sally working for the region and being able to influence more of the recreation program across the North State in the North Zone is going to be a good thing for the agency. And that's what I keep reminding of myself when I want to feel sorry for myself. So we're really happy for Sally. It's certainly very well deserved. She's super qualified. And I think, like I said, expanding her sphere of influence across the North State will just help the agency be better on that many more fronts. So I've started the hiring process for the GS 12 rec manager position that will be focused on the Trinity side of the forest. They will sit over the whole rec program for the South Fork, as well as the Trinity River management unit and the part of the NRA that we cover, at least the rec piece of it. So I'm excited about getting that person on board. As Sally mentioned, we're looking to add a number of positions. It was unfortunately reported there was a misunderstanding that we had filled the 14 positions in rec and we haven't filled them. I will tell you, we have a lot of good, strong applicants, many of which are local, that we're hoping will get through the hiring process. And when I know more, I will be sure to let you know. That will be super excited if we can get those folks on board. We're also looking at doing a couple of emergency hires because there's clearly we can use some more folks. There's some people that can't commit to a whole season, but they're willing to work for a 30-day period or a 60-day period and help us kind of fill in the gaps while some of those other folks are getting onboarded. So we're looking at that as well. Front desk, great news. I'm super excited to tell you that we're going to open our doors and be open on June 6th. So finally, I can't tell you how happy I am about that, but we're going to open up on June 6th. So that's for the Forest Service, and I think that's across the region. At least I can tell you for sure on the west side of the Shasta Trinity will be opening. Position wise, so some other things we're working on that may not be on your radar is the rec residence following the August complex fire. We're still working through that process, and I'm getting some support from the Shasta Lake side with that. So that's been a big deal, and we're trying to continue to work through that. I think hiring wise, as you know, we have a deputy district ranger on board because right now I'm covering both units. The deputy district ranger is Ben Sundahl, and he's covering. We're splitting up. When I'm in Hayfork, he's in Weaverville, and vice versa. So we, even though we're down one ranger, we do have 2 line officers, and with that full authority on the west side. So rest assured, we're available to help work through some of these recreation challenges and opportunities. Let's see, what else would you need to know? I think those are the big picture.
I've got one more, Tara. That's a huge
Sally.
win for us.
I'm probably forgetting something.
Yeah, so Monique Ray has been our Mobilize Green intern working as a sub-regional volunteer coordinator. She is going to transition into our forest partnership coordinator. She completed the program, completed her hours, and we are going to be able to just hire her through the direct hiring authority. So she'll be taking over for LaJean. She knows the community, she knows lots of our partners, and she is a fabulous employee. So we are extremely lucky that she has accepted a position here on the Shasta Trinity, and she'll be staying here in Weaverville.
I'm super excited that you guys backfilled that position and that it's Monique. I think that's fantastic. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And then the forest is actually reaching out to backfill behind her, you know, as that volunteer coordinator through that resource assistant program. So that's a really good, she really helped mobilize some of our volunteers and helped us get a lot of those agreements and get some more work done on the forest. So super grateful to get to keep her, and thanks Sally for bringing that up. And also then to be able to fill in behind her. I think that's, you'll probably remind me of something. I bet Carol has something I've forgotten, but that's what I can remember off the top of my head and based on my notes. But any other questions related to staffing? I know you have an agenda and I'm trying to honor that. Do you have any other questions related to staffing?
No, I just want to say thank you for keeping Sally physically here, even though she's going to be doing a different job. Thank you for not letting her leave the county.
I think that has a lot to do with her family, how much she enjoys the county, and she's passionate about recreation in Trinity County. So you're right, that'll be a really big plus for us. Sally, did you have anything else?
I guess forest-wide, Becky Cooper, my the rec officer at Mount Shasta is leaving the forest as well. So Joe Stubedick is actually going to be, for a little while, the only the only district rec officer. So, recreation is going to be a little thin for a little bit until we can get backfilled across the forest.
Absolutely. And we do want to reach out and congratulate Joe Stubedick, who is, in the rec officer position permanently. He had been covering it for quite a while, and he's now permanently in that position. So we're real happy to make that a permanent solution with Joe.
Great. Thanks. I'm going to ask Jim if he's got it, since we don't hear from the Mad River Ranger District or the Six Rivers side much. It'd be great if you had anything to report out at this point.
Well, we're trying to get busy. I only got here myself. My start date was March 27th. As I understand it, my position had been vacant for quite a while. So part of the draw for me was that I was going to get to pull the program out of mothballs and try and make some things happen with it. I'm blessed to have 2 returning seasonals that were emergency hires last year, but they enjoyed themselves enough to want to come back, and they're actual Forest Service employees this year. And they're locals and they're mature, so they've been here for a while and they have great work ethics. So I feel like people who've worked in the world understand that not everyone has this situation. I didn't have it in my previous district, so I was pretty excited. I feel like I got a team from day one. And as the district ranger there alluded to, we've also got this big hiring event. So, and it's a blessing because they're giving us some money to backfill all these org chart positions that have been vacant for a long time. But there's going to be some transition. The way if you go in to apply for one of those, it's location to be determined upon selection, and it's just like one posting for the whole country. So it's going to be interesting to see how the next few months play out. But the long picture is that we're going to have more people, more positions filled, and we're going to be able to do some things we haven't been able to do for a while. I know on my district, as I'm going through all the old records and getting backed up online and digging into old drawers. We've got signs of when we had a YCC program and when we had a SCEP program for seniors. And so I know my ranger is excited about trying to get those going again, and I am too. That's the kind of work I love to do. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's something we're going to start working toward. And I've already been talking to one of Jack's compatriots who wants to come and help us work on some of our OHV trails. And the fires, what I'm hearing, I haven't even gotten out to scout some of our trails yet, and trails are a passion for me. I'm a trail runner in my free time. So I understand that all of our trails need a lot of work. Most of our signs burned up. There's a lot of down trees. There's a lot of trees that aren't down yet, that are going to be down. So I'm just starting to wrap my head around that. And because of the state of the trails, we're probably going to have to do some scoping before we can work on on a lot of them. So trying to even just build my list of who all I've got to talk to before we go out and start working on them. So a lot to do, but we are getting open. We're also going to be open on June 6th. We'll have our front door open. Our new front desk person, I've met him. He's going to be my neighbor there on the Forest Service compound. His name is Max, and he's wonderful. Just a super nice guy. We're having a day at Xenia next week where the whole district's going to come together in person. You know, we're coming back from COVID. We're all going to be working together to have a potluck and work day and clean and spruce the place up. And so it feels like we're coming back together again. And while I don't know hardly anybody here yet, this is a destination job for me, so I'm planning to be here for a while, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you over the years to come.
Cool.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We, you know, like I said, it's nice to have some representation from, you know, South County. So that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Actually, trail conditions and signage, on that region, we do have a youth crew based out of Hayfork that does do quite a bit of log outs as well as sign installation in the South Park unit. So if you want to talk with Tom about that as well, I'm sure that we'd be able to arrange something, maybe not this season, but certainly next.
Tom and I have a day planned that we're going to meet at one of our campgrounds and actually go out and look at the trail. And so, yeah, I'll be picking his brains on all that. And I'm also going to get your contact info so I can have you on speed dial.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Excellent. While we're on Forest Service, Joe, do you happen to have anything that you want to report out at this point, or we covered everything? Joe.
No, I would just kind of reiterate what a lot of what I'm sorry, I didn't catch the gentleman's name from the Six Creeks. Was just saying about new employees coming on as we're bringing folks on. There's definitely a you know, it's good that we're getting new folks on, but there's definitely going to be a learning curve and a bumpy road of getting folks up to speed and getting those individuals all the things they need, you know, whether that be radios, vehicles, you know, just familiarity with the area. So we're ramping up, but we likely will not be able to be hitting the ground running, but we're going in the right direction. So that's my take on that. I think I have the next item on the agenda if you want me to roll right into that.
Well, I was going to ask, Tara, did you have, I have here listed community meetings for the spring of 2022 as they relate to recreation. I have to assume that's for Tara, if there was anything that came out of the community meetings that you wanted to report out, Tara?
Sure. Hold on one second. I just struggle with Zoom sometimes. You'd think I'd have it down by now. Okay. So we had the 5 community meetings. I'll tell you, I did learn, it's been a learning process for me in finding the right ways to communicate with our communities. I know we had a really good turnout up north. I'm finding that for meetings up north, I likely will just do one in Coffee Creek and one at Trinity Center, just to make it easy and so that, you know, all the communities feel like we're reaching out to them. But we did one up north, we did one in Weaverville, one in Burnt Ranch, and then followed up with the change in leadership on the west side and the South Fork, did one in High and Palm and one in Hayfork. So what I'm learning about communicating is, you know, it makes a lot of sense to put out the sandwich boards and system updates that are actually on bulletin boards and rolling it kind of more old school. Seems to like that will reach more people. But for the turnout we did have, you know, recreation was definitely one of the key points. I got a few comments on the proposed fee increase. Got a few people wanted to talk to me about that. Mostly a lot of stuff about fire and fuels reduction. But wanted to make sure this group knows that that's something that we'll be doing on the Shasta Trinity side in the spring and in the fall. And I expect to get a little bit better at getting the word out. I definitely appreciate, I know Carol and Pat worked really hard to make sure everyone up north was aware. And so as we continue to evolve and make sure we get more people involved in managing the forest, that I'm looking forward to those meetings. You know, there's nothing better than, I'm also going to go hang out at the fair at our fair booth so I can hear what people have to say as well. So I'm available. I'm looking forward to getting the offices open so people can stop in and actually have those, you know, drop off with their concerns and comments. But the meetings went well. Thank you for asking, and looking forward to the next ones.
Great. Thanks, Tara. Joe, you said you were going to report out, sounds like, for the lake concessionaire update.
Yeah, sorry, just like Tara, I'm a little slow with Zoom. We use Teams more than Zoom. So yeah, so as I think most of the folks in the room know, the concessionaire we have currently, their permit expires at the end of this calendar year. So we've been doing quite a bit of an effort to get a prospectus out to get a new campground concession, or a new campground concessionaire permit issued. And as part of that, we we put out the prospectus at the end of March, had a site visit at the end of April. We spent a day on the Shasta side and a day on the Trinity side of the offering. We hit probably about 70% of the sites on each side. It's a big offering, so it's hard to do everything all in just 2 days. We had 3 different groups interested that came along with the current concessionaire, plus a representative from American Land and Leisure, as well as a third entity from Explore US. So all 3 are not new to the campground concession game, so to speak. And we went through all of the sites, or a representative sample of all of the sites, and we highlighted all of the great things that we have to offer around Trinity Lake, around Shasta Lake. But we also disclosed, I think is maybe the best word, some of the issues and the challenges that we have, whether that be low lake levels that are out of our control and hands, and how that impacts recreation, the challenges of different boat ramps being in or out of the water depending on the lake levels. Talked about smoke, and that certainly the trend over the last several years is smoke has really been a challenge on our sites. And then we also discussed some of the criminal activity that we have in different places, and just the challenges associated with the less desirable component of recreation that we get from in different places. Again, I think the site visit went really well. We had really good interest in terms of what was out there and available. That offering, the applications for that are due by mid-June. I think it is actually June 15th. And then once we get those in, there'll be an evaluation period, and then we'll go into the actual selection going forward. There was a 4th entity that has expressed interest, but had been around the area enough to know the sites and chose not to join us on the site visit. So one of the things probably worth noting is all of the entities indicated the difficulty of getting property insurance, and there is just largely due to wildfire and the costs of premiums going up with all of that. And that is a Forest Service line officer discretion on whether or not that's required. And it looks like we're going to remove that requirement for the property insurance to make it a more viable offering, to hopefully get a really good concessionaire. One thing to note on that, that we put forward was we, as part of it, you identify different areas that you're prioritizing the evaluations on. And one of the things that we prioritized was the fee the concessionaire pays to the government in terms of Granger Thigh project dollars that come back to the local forest. So recognizing that those fees are ways that we can get work done, whether it's new bear trash cans, work at the boat ramps, different things like that. So that was one of the things that we threw in there to try and get more results down the road in terms of that work done. I think that's all I've got in terms of an update on the prospectus and the potentially the new concessionaire. Are there questions from the room?
So Joe, I had one. So one of the things we talked about last year, it's not going to be an issue this year, but so the concessionaire would put closed signs up at some of the boat ramps once the boat ramp was out of the water. For liability purposes on their part, but there were still tons of people, just driving around the closed signs and launching anyway. And so I just wondered, just in the future, thinking about, is there a way to capture that money? Because you guys are losing a lot of money with people launching, even though it was technically closed. Or is there a way to, if you're really gonna close it, really close it, put the barriers up so people can't launch. But then they would have to go to a place where you have to pay the fee. So just something maybe to talk about to them about is I think you guys might want to figure out a better system for closing boat ramps and collecting fees and not losing money.
Okay. I can certainly talk to Cliff. So Cliff Piper, I think probably many of you have met Cliff over the years. He's the assistant rec officer over there. And from the Trinity side of things, the day-to-day kind of stuff, Cliff handles that and interfaces with the concessionaire and everything like that. So I can certainly bring that up with Cliff and try and address that. But you mentioned the fees and trying to not miss out on fees and things like that. That brings up something else that I forgot to mention that we have highlighted in terms of this prospectus is trying to, where possible, offer cashless payments. With the idea there is so many people are used to paying with credit cards, and people cannot cut an Iron Ranger and steal the fees when it's a cashless payments. Obviously, there's still the challenge of the fact that some folks, are all cash and trying to accommodate, the full group, the full representation of the people out there recreating and everything like that. But it is one of the things that we're looking at to try and more fully capture the receipts of what's going on out there. So.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Minersville boat ramp. I assume this is either Jose or Joe.
Yeah, so Minersville boat ramp, the project lead on that is Cindy Luzetti. I did have a chance to talk to her prior to this meeting, so I can give a bit of an update. She said that the request for the contract for the engineering services is like into our portal, and we're expecting to know who that entity is or what that looks like towards the end of the month. once we get that in place, we'll be able to get a 30% design on that, which will inform our ability to do the NEPA and keep things moving forward on that. So I guess the big takeaway that I got from Cindy was that there is traction, there's things moving forward on that. And that's kind of what I know. Again, if there are additional questions on that, I'm happy to take them. I'm going to probably not be able to answer them because that's not my project, but we can certainly get back that information to Cindy to be able to address that.
Any questions? Okay. I guess then moving on, there's a listing here for an agenda item for status of concessionaire for the marinas. Were there permit, has there been permit transfers, insurance issues with regard to the concessionaire for the actual marinas?
Yeah, thanks. So a little bit of update there. I know we've been working on a couple of marina projects. The one that we are getting close to finishing up is the one for Packers Bay. That one there is
Jose?
Yeah, am I on mute?
Is there, can we just stick with the Trinity side?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, it's all right.
I apologize. I have no updates on the Trinity side. I know there's, some conversations of, potential sales for one of the marinas out there. But it's still kind of like on the, hey, what do I need, et cetera. Nothing official. But no recent transfers whatsoever.
Okay.
Or at least nothing close to being there just at this point.
I don't think any of them are gonna be open this summer anyway.
Oh, yeah. Okay, definitely gonna have no other discussion or questions about that. I guess we'll move on to post-fire recreation. What is, and recovery for Red Salmon, August, McFarland, Monument River. What's been completed, what's planned for the summer, and maybe this is for Sally.
Sure. So I'll just go down the line by fire. So the Red Salmon fire, we worked on it a little bit last year, doing some of the bear work. All the interior signs, the directional signs, were ordered and have arrived. So we are going to be trying to get a contract packer together to help some of our trail workers install those interior directional signs this year. There is also money, I believe, allocated to the 6 rivers through the disaster supplemental money to have continued trail work in that area. The August complex, Forest Glen Cabin and Forest Glen Campground are open with potable water to the public. Scott Flat and Hellgate will continue to be closed. There's still some logging that needs to happen in there. Hazard tree removal that was outside of the timber sale will need to happen before we can open Scott Flat. One new vault toilet has been installed at Hellgate. One has been installed at Scott Flat. Another toilet was funded by disaster supplemental money. I've put that into the contracting system. And then we have been working with the CCCs in the Forest Glen area. They have now run out of employees to send out to us, but we have worked with the Smart Center and they have been designated some Department of Labor disaster relief money. So they will actually be hiring us employees that we will be working with under a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to continue to have employees out there working until we can get those campgrounds open. And then the South Fork River Trail is currently closed. There was a crib failure at Devil's Elbow. And we're actually working with the Watershed Center to try to come up with a better long-term solution because that corner has failed multiple times. Josh is gonna get that same geologist friend out in that area to see if there's any better solutions for the trail location out there. There is funding allocated through the disaster supplemental money to take care of that issue once a solution has been determined and any compliance work needs to get done. McFarland fire didn't affect too many recreation sites. We need to fill in some burned up toilets at some old campgrounds that are no longer in the system. And they have repaired the burned water line at Post Creek. So there will continue to be a flushing toilet out there. That work has been completed. Rat Trap Gap, we've worked with the archaeologist. We've got clearance to rebuild that trailhead. I'm about halfway through the contracting to get the new vault toilet installed. I should have that done before I leave. And then, so that's pretty much McFarland. Not too many trails burned. The monument fire, we've replaced some signs along the corridor. And then we have emergency trail workers coming and a full 1039 experienced trail worker coming. So we'll be tackling the bare trail work that needs to happen within the monument footprint starting early June. And then we have 2 more 1039 trail workers coming mid-June. So we'll be definitely working in the monument fire footprint. There is, I think, not too much money besides the sign replacements allocated for the bar, which is the infrastructure replacement, post-fire infrastructure replacement. We've already ordered the $6,000 worth of interior signs to be reinstalled in the fire footprint, but those probably won't be coming for 6 to 9 months because of supply chain issues. The river fire obviously is the biggest fire footprint from this last year. Tara in a little bit can give an update on the trail status, but we'll be up there doing assessments on the trails as our folks come back on. So there is, I don't know what that sound is, I'm sorry. So we're going to be doing bear work this year, bar work probably into next year. And then there is a significant amount of money that was allocated through the disaster supplemental money, which should fund trail work into the next 5 years, keeping those trails safe and open. We had 3 bridges within the fire footprint that one was completely destroyed, and we've worked with the regional trail person to put in an ERFO project, a federal highways project, for them to take on the replacement of the North Fork Coffee Creek Bridge. Sugar Pine and the second North Fork Coffee Creek Bridge, we're looking to get engineers up there to assess the bridges to know what kind of work needs to get done to ensure they're safe for continued use. We have recommended to Tara and the forest supports requiring bear canisters in the Canyon Creek drainage. I know this doesn't seem like it's related to the fires, but having those closures is going to push more people into Canyon Creek. And we've already been having aggressive bear issues in that drainage. So we're working to get ahead of the problem and start requiring bear canisters in the Canyon Creek drainage. What are your questions about that? Sorry, there's a lot of info, huge fire footprints, and lots of work happening. So, yeah. Questions?
So the trails that are going to be closed in Coffee Creek, are those going to be posted in any way?
Absolutely. And we're still, about the time we got the snow off of the trails, we got some more snow, which is a mixed blessing. Glad to get the water, but it makes things a little bit more complicated. So we will absolutely be keeping it updated, not only on our web page, Facebook, but then also, as I said, I think we'll be putting sandwich boards out and letting folks know, which ones are open and which ones are closed, and then maintaining that. Also, that it'll be really helpful to have the office open, and we'll also be communicating with the visitor center there in Weaverville, so they have the most current information as well. I wish I could tell you today exactly which ones are going to be closed, and I can tell you for sure the Coffee Creek Trail will be closed, and there's the one on the August footprint will certainly be closed. We're trying to do some assessments quickly. I guess, so my question for you, for this group, before I get too much further, down the road here, is which trails, if we were going to get them cleared and opened again, so get the assessment done and be able to get them open again, which would be the priorities of this group for those trails?
Well, so I mean, people are already hiking. So someone I talked to on Monday went out Union Lake Trail and it counted 36 trees down. And he's telling me, hey, there's 36 trees down. So anyway, I'm just, the opinion is that a lot of the hazard trees that would have come down came down in the December storm. So they're thinking that this year, if you could get the trails open in terms of the trees that have fallen across the trail, that the hazard to hikers is less. Is that making any sense at all?
Yeah, I totally understand that. My biggest concern, Carol, to be honest, and the reason I want an assessment done, I have no doubts we're going to go out and say there's trees across the trail and there's dead trees along the trails. That's going to be common. My biggest concern for public safety is that the signs burn and that it may not be obvious where the trail actually is, because in a lot of places, especially up north there, we had that DG just slid and moved all over the place. So to me, my biggest fear is people getting out and not being able to keep track of where the trail is or find it. So those are some of the assessments that I really want to get in and get done as quickly as we can.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, the women that died on Boulder Lake Trail a few years ago, they died because a tree fell across the trail and they tried to go around it and lost the trail. So I guess my thing would be, you guys go out and assess it and figure out which trails are the safest, and those are the ones that will direct people to.
Okay.
But I will say, so Ruth Esperance, the public affairs officer, she and I worked on the information to go into the recreation guide. And she was awesome. I sent her the link to today's meeting because I wanted to thank her for all her help. But so the rec guide comes out next Wednesday, and it has the information that at the time was, our best guess as far as what would be open and what would be closed. So if you take that rec guide and then go from there in terms of updates on the website or whatever, that would be appreciated. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I do have a little bit more information. So that's come out in the last couple of weeks. We're going to try really hard to get out and do address hazard trees in the river complex it's probably about 400 acres. Some of the challenges for us, or one of the biggest challenges, is that the approach to the I think the 19Y road, which goes to, I think it's David's property up above Goldfield. If you've been out there, you've seen that's kind of the approach is washed out. The bridge is good, but the creek's not where it was, and we've got some issues there. So I've had engineering going out there and looking at it, but we're looking to, similar to the approach we used in Forest Glen, we're looking to get out to Goldfield, get the hazard trees cut, get them decked, get them sold so we can get them off of the landscape, as well as some of the roads that go up to some of our trailheads, Boulder Lake being one. I think might be a piece of Billy's Peak, the road up there, and a couple of other additional roads. So the thought there is we'll try to get those hazard trees down, get get them off of the landscape, so we don't just leave a bunch of fuel piled up along our main roads. And then, so there may be, the trailheads may be closed to facilitate that operation, so we can get those trees down, so no one's gonna get their car crushed while they're in the wilderness. And there may be significant delays if you're trying to get up one of those roads where we're taking out the hazard trees, similar to some of the work you see being done along 299, dealing with storm damage trees. Or, you know, there'll be a delay as we're trying to work through that. And I will, you know, make sure that we're communicating that with the communities up there, where we're going to be, when we're going to be, which road, how much, you know, what the delays look like, as well as getting that on our website, Facebook, and with the visitor center. But I'm excited that there's a chance to get in, get those things, be timely, get the hazard trees down and get them removed off the landscape, at least for those few areas up there in the river complex. That's the area we're prioritizing. Hope to follow up and do plan to follow up and do the same thing on Monument, but River is going to be the first big push to get that done. So you should have already started to see a lot more Forest Service white trucks running around out there. I know I was out there last Saturday. We're really making a concentrated effort to get some of those pieces of ground covered quickly.
So, so any on-site signage, you know, this trail, okay, just temporary signs, this trail closed because we're working on hazard trees, whatever, would be really, really handy, you know, or this trail, whatever, road work, you know, whatever, just because people are gonna be wandering up there, and I really don't want them going places where you don't want them.
Yeah, no, I will be happy to get as many different kinds of signs up there as we can. I know we have some really specific signage requirements, but we'll find a way. I'm not gonna let those kind of things keep us from letting the public know what's going on. So, nope, good point, Carol, and we'll make sure that we do that.
And the reason I'm asking that is, unfortunately, I found out this week, so the Trinity Lake Revitalization Association, which normally runs the Trinity Center Visitor Center, is disbanding. And so the Visitor Center won't be open this summer. So we won't have that mechanism to let people know which trails are safe and which trails aren't. They're gonna be picking up the rec guide at the general store, and that's what they get.
Okay, so just to make sure I don't forget anything, I was thinking about doing a sandwich board at the Trinity Center store.
The Coffee Creek store will be open this summer, and there's no internet up there, no cell service, no internet. So actually having, you know, signs at the Coffee Creek store would be good, because there's no other way for people to find out stuff other than signs.
What about KOA?
KOA will be open this year. They're already open. They did a soft opening 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and
But I mean,
the
like,
store's open.
but I mean, like that's what I mean. Would there be a good place for
Yeah,
information?
we'll try to put a sign up at the KOA. The pizza place up there, that's in Coffee Creek, right? Is that a good place for one?
Everybody goes to Trailhead, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then probably I'll put, I can check with both volunteer fire departments and see if they're comfortable having one out in front of their buildings as well. Carol, does that make sense as well?
Yeah, we'd be glad to. I'll volunteer Coffee Creek. You got me.
Okay.
I should probably know this, but up at the end of the Coffee Creek Road is big flat trailhead and campground. Is that the responsibility of Klamath?
Yeah, so I did talk to the Klamath National Forest. I talked to the ranger station in Fort Jones, which handles that. And so they had me put language in the rec guide that says the big flat campground will be open. But the trails that lead from there, you should check with them on the status, because they're worried about the trail up to Caribou Lake and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, all the granite was falling off, that trail is kind of disappearing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Okay. So I told you about the Yeah, no, those are great points, and thank you. Now I have a good list of where to put those sandwich boards out. And I might also look at bringing in a little bit of help, local help, with some PIO type assistance. I
Yeah,
know, I'll try to get, yeah, Ruth was great. Is that what you're saying?
She's supposed to be here next weekend. We were gonna go out and hike some, so
Great.
Saturday, I think. I don't know how long her detail lasts.
So I can answer that. I know we'll have her through the complete field season going into next winter.
That's why she wants to know where she's gonna be talking about.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wants to know what you can do on a weekend.
For sure. I think that, I mean, we talked about river, we talked about, there'll be a follow-up effort for planning on monument. We're also working with our partners in some of the post-fire fuels reduction type work. There'll be a lot of there'll be a lot of work going on in the August complex because we do have some NEPA that's already in place to, that we can go spend some of that disaster funding to get some of that fuels work done. But as far as rec goes, we're still doing the planning piece. And as I said, we will do, I'll do everything I can to make sure that the Goldfield rebuild and restoration gets all the survey work done, gets all the wheels greased so that we can, once we get the hazard trees out of the way, we can start to put it back together similar to the path that Forest Glen took. So that was a really good, that worked out really well. Sally did a good job of jumping in, and Cliff and everyone right behind the logging. And I was happy how quickly we got that open. And I think that'll be our approach more in the future to do something similar.
So, but does doing all the NEPA planning work for Goldfield take away from other planning efforts?
No, because so we'll be doing we're going to be out in that neck of the woods dealing with the hazard trees and doing the surveys. So we'll be doing ARC surveys and botany surveys and all those other types of things, which are what Sally needs to do anything in the campgrounds. She needs the same thing. So then we'll have that information. And even if I have to do a CE for just the campground, if it's not covered in this regional NEPA that's coming out, then at least I'll have all the survey work and it'll go really quickly through the system. So the other thing we forgot to mention, Sally, is we just redid some flooring in one of our facilities. I saw Cliff and Chris did some great work. I just can't remember which facility it was.
Post Creek.
Post Creek. So we just put some new flooring in at Post Creek, and yeah, gosh, it looks fantastic.
So one thing to keep in mind with all this trail work is, you know, we have to find a partner who's willing to take this on because it is a huge amount of work that's going to take a huge amount of staff. And right now our partners are not staffed up for this scale of work. So, you know, working with them this fall to then hopefully have them staffed up by, you know, summer 23. And right now I don't have any trail workers to go take care of those 36 trees on that one trail. I mean, if that's multiplied by, you know, the 180 miles that burned this year, it's going to take a long time to recover from this. So just, you know, let's try to keep our expectations in check with how big this project was and how long it's going to take to recover.
Well, the rec guide basically says all those trails along Coffee Creek are closed this summer.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
We're dealing with the same job market everybody else is.
Yeah, and then, you know, opening up one trail in that area and not others is going to lead to a, you know, connectivity nightmare and an enforcement nightmare. So, you know, it's going to be.
You start scraping to try to come up with trail workers. Sometimes you get people who don't really know what they're doing out there, or they're not. It's
going to be a lot of work to make it safe.
Yeah, so I mean, right now the plan is pretty much to direct people to, you know, Long Canyon, Swift Creek, Stewart's Ford, you know, not send them out to Coffee Creek Road. The hunters will all be up there this fall at Big Flat anyway, but whatever.
Okay, well, that's Kelly. I think I
the need
covered
for the toilet.
Yeah, I think I covered most of the post-fire stuff, unless there are any other specific questions.
So are you gonna close any of the forests this summer?
I won't know that unless there's a, that, it depends on the fire danger or if there is a fire, there's no, it depends. I'm sorry, that's not a great answer, but we know when we closed it last time, it was because because the preparedness level was at 5 because of all of the fires and all of the drawdown. So as you know, we're already in the country, we're already experiencing a lot of fires in New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona. There's fires. It's unbelievable to me. So it's definitely not something that we want to do or look forward to doing. But it's a tool in the toolbox, because if we can help prevent the next fire, that's kind of what it's all about. I typically, if we're in a situation like we were last year, I'll put it in order. I'll ask fire to put it in order to get us some more patrols. And we talked about limiting campfires in the wilderness. So we have those discussions, a pre-season wilderness meeting that'll happen real soon, and we'll go from there.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Jim, do you have anything to report out, like with regards to post-fire recovery efforts for, say, August Complex on the Mad River Ranger District?
Only in general, I'm still trying to get up to speed. I do know we've got a lot of signs ordered. We're running into some of the same supply chain issues as far as actually getting them in stock. We've got some stuff delivered, some stuff still trickling in, and then we got to figure out, I've got to catch up on where it all needs to go and who's going to help me deploy it and that kind of stuff. And then my understanding is that most of our trails have a lot of down trees and then are going to require a lot of work. So that's about what I can tell you right now.
Great, thanks,
So,
Jim.
Weaverville rec staff helped the Six Rivers a little bit last year. There's still some money in those agreements to have CCC workers out there when and if the CCCs can ever find more employees. And then there is a huge bank of money allocated to the Mendocino for work in the Yola-Boli, and obviously the Yola-Boli stretches across our 3 forests. So hopefully you will get to meet Paulette Kelly and Matt on the Mendocino, and get a piece of that money to help with your trail work within the August fire footprint.
That would be great, Sally. If you get a minute, sounds like you're pretty busy, but if you get a minute to forward me their contact info, then I'll get them on speed dial too.
Yeah.
Great. All right, moving on to the next agenda item. I think we've heard about the status of trails. Is there any other reports out for status of campgrounds and boat ramps this summer?
Our campgrounds are good to go. We've been out and we got one campground where I don't know if we've got the water testing back compatibility, but we're not expecting any concerns. The others are already signed off on and good. Got some volunteers from Pathfinders that are sprucing up one of them for us. Wasn't much to do, but we were even joking about having to go out there and sprinkle around some litter or something for them so the kids could feel like they did something. But anyway, and then we're going to go back and check back behind them. So our campgrounds will all be open as of 1 week from today.
Okay. And you guys maintain the campgrounds around Ruth Lake?
Yes, Spur Cove and Bailey Canyon are the 2 popular campgrounds right on the lake. If you're ever in the area and looking for a spot yourself, Mad River Campground is on the river and is equally pretty and much less frequent.
Is that upstream or downstream of the lake?
That's downstream of the lake. It's down from the dam.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Jim. Anything from Shasta T with regard to boat ramps, campgrounds?
Yeah, so we're going to meet all the commitments that we said we would make for getting things open, and then we should have more things open. Pretty sure Minersville is going to be the only one in the water this summer based on lake levels. We should have enough staff in-house to cover Memorial Weekend. Tara has been adamant that other program areas be made available for overtime if they want it to help us. So we've got a couple of people that have volunteered for that. And status of trails, bonus, the regional office has some additional trails money. So we are proposing to put it into an agreement with the Watershed Center to help with the implementation of the Ewing Trails project to try to get some trails constructed in the Hayfork area, which is great news.
Great.
And I'll get that into an agreement before I leave.
We really appreciate that.
Awesome. Okay. I have a list, or I have listed here, help over Memorial Day weekend to remove trash, clean toilets at developed recreation sites.
We're good. If you're out and about and you see trash, you know, help us out, but otherwise we should be good to cover all of our sites.
Okay, awesome. And we talked about NRA campgrounds and rescheduling. We'll get with Sarah and schedule that site visit or that field trip. So moving on to Bowerman Barn.
Jose, do you have an update? I mean, I was down at the barn last week and the roof was all done except for the very peak. I didn't go this week to see if they finished that. You know if they finished the roof replacement?
Yeah, I got a message from engineering yesterday and they said all the work is done there.
Okay. I apologize for the contractor having stuff stolen. The neighbors were trying to keep an eye on it, but you know, somebody broke into the barn, I guess, and stole a generator and stuff, so what can we say? Try. So we are planning to do docent tours Memorial Weekend on that Sunday. Since the roof is complete, and if construction's complete, is that okay with you guys?
I don't have any concern. Tara, Sally?
Sounds fantastic to me. Sally, we're good, right?
I don't have any concerns, no.
Great.
So for the RAC funded work this season, we had a minimum amount of money from the RAC for, I think it was to pay for gravel to extend the trail a little bit, and then to put a sign in the barn. I sent the draft graphics for the sign to Pete. He was gonna run it by one of your interpretive specialists to see if that would work, and then we could order the sign. I will say on the gravel, when we first developed the grant, the RAC application grant, trucking fee was $70 an hour for gravel from Eagle Rock. I had gravel delivered yesterday for our Fire Safe Home demonstration day, and it was $140 an hour, so it doubled. So I'm not sure how much gravel we're gonna get and how much trail we're gonna be able to extend, but anyway.
Is that for the current rack? I mean, was that a current rack?
That's a current RAC funding.
Funding.
So what Pete told me was that the code or whatever had been, you know, that funding had shown up in the code, the Forest Service code, for him to start charging things to it, so that would be to pay for the gravel and to pay for the sign.
Mm.
So, does that make sense, Tara?
Yeah. I think, and I talked to Pat a little bit yesterday. I've got some emails out trying to find out either how much our next rack will be, or when I'll know how much our next rack will be. So I'm working on that, trying to track that down for the whole group. But yeah, no, also, Carol, I just wanted to say thank you, because I know exactly when you let us know that the place had been broken into. We were at a FLT out on Shasta Lake, and I was sitting there with engineering and with Sarah, so we were able to, our FPT went out and got something to get it locked up. But, you know, I wouldn't have known if you hadn't reached out and let me know. So thank you very much for keeping an eye on it and keeping us informed. I really appreciate it.
Well, and the mules are back, so people are down there feeding the mules. But yeah, as far as future projects, Pete and I do have a rack project that we'll be submitting, so, for the parking lot. So, yeah, when that money's available, I think we're gonna go for some.
Great. And I think I'm finding out those mules are the, like celebrities in Trinity County. So if I'm thinking when I have public meetings, if I just bring the mules, that I'll be more popular. That's what I'm gonna go with.
But, so the word is, Ivan has the book, but he's like the prima donna and he bites and he kicks, so you really want to bring another mule and call him Ivan.
Okay, that works. All right.
Great, thank you, Carol. Great American Outdoor Act updates. Anything from anybody on that?
I can give updates. Shasta Trinity was not selected for any fiscal year 23 projects. We have been implementing our fiscal year 21 projects. 2 of them are out in the wilderness, and they will be out working, I believe, starting the end of June, clearing the trail to Doe Lake. And then Agnes's crew, the Eastern Sierra Conservation Corps, will be working on completing the Landers Loop trail reroute. Jack and Cliff and Chris and Leif have been out working most of the winter in High and Palm when he's not building the sweepstakes trail. So if you get a chance, please go and see your Great American Outdoors Act work on the ground in High and Palm. The sites look great. We'll be continuing on with some other sites on the South Fork, improving roads, patching the asphalt, putting in new picnic tables, campfire rings, and that kind of stuff.
Great, thanks, Sally. All right, moving right along, partner updates.
Kelly, before you jump to that, just the other one that I think, I didn't think I heard Sally say it, but one of the Great American Outdoor projects that we had was sign replacements. So we've got all those. It's in the contracting world, supply chain, yada, yada. We put it in last May. Those signs should be delivered at the sometime this fall. So some of the signs that look rough and haggard out there, we've probably got replacements coming for them. So that's in the works too.
Great, thanks, Joe. Jack.
Just so Sally is aware, as soon as we lose all soil moisture for building sweepstakes, I plan on joining Chris and Cliff out in Forest Glen for the similar type of infrastructure upgrades as we did in High and Palm.
Great. Partner updates. Jack, Watershed Center.
Wonderful. So the biggest news that I have for us is definitely that proposal with the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, all relating to recreation and tourism. I mean, really, it's just based around taking all of these highly impacted trails like Canyon Creek and Swift Creek.
Canyon Creek wouldn't be
Right, absolutely. It wouldn't be in the Upper Trinity watershed, but what we're trying to do with this planning agreement is expand recreation opportunities away from these highly impacted trails. And so trying to do some more assessments on the east side of the lake, as well as like the East Fork Trail and that area. After talking with SBI, they are not interested in opening the East Fork Trail, which is up to them, of course. It's been abandoned since the 70s. But there are tons of OHV opportunities that are out there that would be deserving some upgrades and some publicity as well, because there's tons just all around Ram's Horn, and there's some amazing recreation opportunities. So really, this whole planning grant that we are applying for, it'll supplement that reclamation water smart program that we're doing. Also, that watershed planning, the forest health and fire resilience that we're doing up on Bowerman Ridge, it's all going to be connected, which is going to be really nice. So all 3 of those different grants will have different priorities, but it'll all be benefiting the health of the upper Trinity River watershed in the long run. So,
Sally and I will put in a plug for the toilet at Long Canyon Intrepid. Right, Sally?
Yeah, I was talking to the regional office and I was trying to squirrel away some money. So there might be money coming for a new toilet there. We'd have to just do the compliance work to get that done because it's the use of that is going to increase with the fire that happened. So it is still high on my list, Carol.
Thank you.
yeah, and so if we do receive the money from this recreation and tourism grant, our planned time to start using that funding is January of 2023, and it should be a 3-year agreement that'll take us through the end of 2025. That's
Great.
all I got for now.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Jack. As far as the RCD is concerned, we're anxiously awaiting our RAC funding for the Weaver Basin Trail System so we can get started on some of the work that we've got planned up there. We've also been doing a fair bit of, through various funding sources, there's been quite a number of, trail hikes and things that we've been doing with high school and some with elementary school. We've been partnering a fair bit with Norel Mukwintu and incorporating them into some of the educational components of the trail hikes that we've been doing. And pretty excited about having them working with us on some of that. And I think that's about all I have for the RCD at this point. Any reports from the TTA?
We've had several volunteer contingents working on the sweepstakes trail and provided a couple of breakfasts at one point and a lunch at another for those volunteers. Days that we had over 20. And then we had a community hike a few weeks ago and it was well attended and we had lunch with that. And of course, now our big fundraiser and event of the year has been the LaGrange Classic Mountain Bike Race. And that's happening on June 11th in the park. Everybody's invited to either race and or just come and hang out and spend the day. That's about it.
Awesome. Thank you. I see Amanda Berger is on the line. Welcome, Amanda. Do you have any?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, I do have some updates. Can everybody hear me?
Amanda is with
Yes,
the
okay.
Ascend Wilderness Experience. Thanks. Go ahead, Amanda.
Okay, so I'm happy to report that we've had an unprecedented amount of applications for our backcountry and stewardship trips. It's the first year that we won't have to extend a deadline, which is pretty amazing. So we've got, I'm just gonna go through my head and the schedule we've got. So we've got 3 day hikes planned in the Alps. Each one of those are with youth, but we'll be doing some light stewardship projects. And then we have a weekend stewardship trip planned that's gonna go from Weaver Bali down to East Weaver Campground. Eric Rademacher is the Forest Service staff that will be joining us on that trip and will be doing trail maintenance on the way down. And then we've got a couple of teen youth stewardship trips. The one that Ascend has taken the lead on is going to Boulder Lakes. And so I feel really good about the fact that we're getting into an area that's been so heavily impacted by the fire so soon to help alleviate some of the fire damage and rebuild some of that trail. And then we'll also at the same time have an adult crew up on the Sugar Pine Lake side of that loop. And the idea, well, that crew is going to focus on the Battle Canyon Trail. And the idea is that those two groups can kind of make a 25-mile loop completion of at least maintaining the spots that really need the help the most, but at least to monitor the whole 25 miles of that trail system there. The only group that we really need to recruit still for is that adult group, and it's from July 8th through the 12th. So if any of you want to join or know someone who wants to volunteer for that, as with all of our trips, we provide everything, and that trip also has pack support from the Forest Service. And then we have multiple backcountry trips with youth throughout all of July. One of them will be up Canyon Creek, and they will be doing some light brush work that will open up the trail again to Boulder Creek Lakes. And so I'm really excited because, you know, if anybody's been up there lately, it's really overgrown right in that first section of the trail. And then we will have a few other 5-day trips for ages 10 through 14, basically. And so it's all shaping up really well. We've got some good projects in the works, and we've got both Jotham Berger on the adult trip partnering as the Forest Service personnel, and Eric Rademacher for a couple of our trips. And then Jack could actually speak to this a little bit more, but we're working with the Watershed Center, Ascend, and the Scott Valley Watershed Council are organizing a youth crew trip. And maybe Jack can mention the location of that, because that just got changed and he knows a little bit more than I do, but that's another youth crew that's going to be up in the North County area. But that's what I've got.
Yes, thank you for the reminder on that one, Amanda. That one is going to be, as Amanda stated, with the Hayfork Youth Crew as well as the Scott Valley Youth Crew up in Etna, trying to create some camaraderie between the different youth groups that are in the area. We'll be staying, it's going to be just west of Mount Eddy over the Bear Creek Cabin. We've received permissions from the landowners there, and also permissions for working on a small segment of the PCT as well as a small segment of the Siskin-Callahan. We'll be doing a day trip up to Mount Eddy as well. It's going to be full of lots of educational talks. We'll have a botanist, a geologist come up. Monique is actually going to come up and do wilderness ethics and how to respect the area that you're working around. And it's all going to be targeted towards 15 to 18-year-olds. So all of these people who we can educate and help them teach their parents how to take care of this. So that's going to be a really fantastic trip. Yeah, it's going to be a really good time. And I was also reminded that we just received permission from SBI to clear out a section along the CV ditch at the bottom of Sweepstakes through their small section of land. So as soon as we have funding to actually do the labor on that, we can get started on implementation and connect it all to Jackass Ridge.
Nice.
So
That's
do you
great.
access Mount Eddy like through Deadfall Lakes and Parks Creek, or
You can, absolutely.
that's what you can?
That'll probably be the way that we are going to go that way. I have a field day scheduled on June 3rd to go and check that out with the guide, Dave Johnson, as well as the Scott River Youth Crew leader. So go and scout out whatever trail needs we have, as well as just the trail itself and access points.
Parks Creek Road is still closed, down at the top. You can't come in from the west, you can only come, you can't come in from the east, you can only come in from the west. Right?
Okay, we were planning on taking the IP road up.
Yeah, it's open up to the top.
Nice, that's good. Thank you.
But we've had several search and rescue calls up there, people getting stuck in the snow at the top.
Are you laying over there at Bear Creek Cabin on the Siskin-Callahan Trail? Is that
Correct.
good? I need some work.
That's what we hear. So hopefully we can get as much done as we can. It's going to be teenagers who are going to have varying degrees of experience with trail work. So it's going to be a really good time.
But they're an end in themselves, right?
Yes.
Come off the top up there on the divide and on the Pacific Crest Trail and work your way clear over to Bull Lake and.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, we'll see as much as we can. We'll get done as much as we can. We'll realistically have 3 full days out there. So depending on where the needs are the greatest and what we can effectively accomplish as well.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Amanda. Were there any other updates that anybody wanted to bring up at this time, or other topics of interest?
Just one for Jack. Do you folks need any assistance from support organizations for the Upper Trinity grant that you're putting in for, or is it just kind of fill out the form and ship it to them?
At this point, it's fill out the form and ship it to them. So we, of course, have not received any feedback yet as far as we're getting to the next stage of the application there. But I can definitely reach out to my supervisors and get back to you on that.
Letters, let us know.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the ones would be a good one because of the recreational opportunities, the Trinity County Fish and Game Advisory Commission. And they, I'm sure, will write a letter of support. And
Is that still Mike Dixon chair on that?
Lee, I think now, but I'm not sure they're going to turn over.
Okay.
Cool. I will definitely.
Yeah, they
make sure
should
to
reach
out. Absolutely.
This is Amanda. I do have something I want to pipe in about really quick. So if anyone has the ability to help share this opportunity for the adult stewardship trip that Ascend facilitates, I would really appreciate any outreach. We still need to fill 4 more spots, and it's a little harder to fill these sort of trips than you'd think. It's just hard with scheduling and all that good stuff. So please reach out to me if you want to help do some outreach for that in some capacity that you may have. So I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Hey, Amanda, have you talked with Maya about having the RCD promote that?
I actually emailed both Maya and Amelia in the same email, and Amelia said that they wouldn't do that because it's not something that we're working with the RCD on.
Oh.
So, but we could try to do that again. That'd be awesome.
Okay, well, I'll talk with them and see what I can make happen.
Okay, thanks.
Tara, you have a question? A comment?
Yep, I just wanted to say, Amanda, one thing, sorry, let me get my camera turned, there we go. One thing that would be helpful, and I'm kind of mixing meetings here, but as you get, after you complete some of your trips and you have some pictures and you can, clearly say how many people attended and how successful it was, that would be great if you could follow up. That's one thing, and I don't mean to cross-pollinate the meeting, but that's one thing the RAC folks are really wanting to see is how many people are taking advantage of this opportunity. So since you haven't been there yet, I just wanted to give you that heads up, that that's something they definitely want to be able to follow up on is how many folks attended, and some pictures would be great and what you did. That would be fantastic if you could provide us something like that.
Happy to help. We definitely document all of that fairly meticulously and have a lot of great photos. So that's really easy for me to do.
Great. Thank you so much. I thought this was a good time to bring that up with you. So I just jumped it in there. Thank you.
Hey, Amanda, have you reached out to our 4th PAO to put that on our Facebook and Twitter feed to get that out?
No, I
that's
should
what I
do
would
that.
recommend.
Okay.
It is a partnership, and yeah.
What's the name of who I should get in touch with?
Yeah, why don't you send it to me? It's Ruth and Esperanza. Actually, I'm not sure if I said her last name right. So, but if you send it to me, I'll forward it on to her, and I'll make sure that you get it her email as well.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks.
Do you guys, Amanda, do you guys post on the Trinity Alps Wilderness Facebook group?
We do, and I think that is an excellent resource. We did get one woman out of Petaluma through that page, and last year actually we got a couple of interested people from that page as well. So that's a really good one to use.
Yeah, it's a very broadly viewed and utilized group, actually. I mean, there's always people posting to that I haven't, never ever heard about. So I mean, there's, obviously it seems like a good place to kind of cast that wider net.
Yeah, it's people who love the Alps and want an opportunity for a free trip and to volunteer and all that. So it's a really good spot for that.
Awesome. Okay, well, if there isn't anything else, I think we're adjourned. And thanks everybody for coming. Jim, thanks for coming up all the way from Mad River. We appreciate you being present. Like I said, we've had a lack kind of on that Southern Trinity end of things. So we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I think they've been on the skeleton crew for a while, but hopefully that's getting ready to change, and I'm excited to be here. So looking forward to working with everybody.
Did you get notifications from me directly, or because I don't remember whether or not I actually got you onto our
I
mailing
know
list.
Kristen sent out an intro email, but I'm not sure what all list I was added to subsequently.
Okay, I will double check and make sure you're on that list for notifications about this committee.
For sure, and any suggestions people will have for like other points of contact, I should have on my list, and other introductions I need to make. It's a lot of names I'm adding all at the same time, but I want to start sort of getting them organized so that when I do start thinking about a project, I know who to call and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have people like you that have all this local knowledge, can talk about specific sites and sound like you've been there before.
So the South Fork National Recreation Trail, that's not gonna be open.
No, I think Sally was talking about that one earlier. Yeah, not at this time.
Yeah, Tara's shaking her head. Thank you, Tara and Sally, for being on here, especially the traveling roadshow, Sally there.
Congratulations, Sally, on your new job.
Yeah.
We're real proud of you.
Thanks. I'm gonna sign off. I'm sure I'll see you all around town.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Everybody.
To,